Hello everybody, welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Oana.
As you can see, we are not in our office where we shoot all our videos. Oana, tell them where we are.
We are somewhere where I'm wearing this to help me with bugs, and as you can see, it helps so much. There's a big bug bite right here.
She's got a ton of bug bites.
Yes.
She's like the bug, attracting the bugs to her all the time.
Yes, I am saving Todd. Not one bug has bitten him. However, I am covered in bug bites.
I did have 4 monkeys on me.
Yes, but that was on purpose.
And I did get stabbed by one of the monkey's claws, but I will live. The doctors tell me there's a high probability I'll live. Behind us is Bali.
Yes.
We're in Bali. That's actually, you could probably hear birds and things, animals back there. We're vacationing.
Yes.
But we are also going to talk about real estate here because a new report came out from Fannie Mae called the Home Price Expectation Survey. Let's talk about this pretty quick. This is crowdsourced data. Fannie Mae went out, grabbed 100 economists, said, give us your projections all the way to 2028 by year. And then what they do is they break these into quartiles. What's a quartile?
1/4, 1/4.
Okay, quartile. So they took the bottom, the top, and then the median, and they published that data. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, I'll just put this up on the chart on the screen first. You can read this. This says Fannie Mae's Home Price Expectation Survey, produced in partnership with some company, polls over 100 housing experts across the industry and academia for forecasts of national home price percentage changes in each of the coming 5 calendar years, with the home price index as the benchmark. Okay, it's based on expectations. It's completely, these guys are guessing, but we're going to talk about it because I think this, when you see the numbers and you think, hey, maybe this is not true, but then we step back and look at what they're saying home prices are going to do based on historical, this is not unreasonable, okay?
Well, so here's the thing. These are people who study the economy and numbers, and this is their best guess. So take it for what it's worth and then compare it to what you think. That's really the fun portion of this. I personally don't necessarily subscribe to all these numbers. You may not either. However, it's kind of interesting to see what you and I think versus what economists think. So hang out with us and let's check out the numbers. Okay,
so here's the first chart I'm going to put up. The first chart is their baseline. So if you go back, this starts at the year end 2023, and they where 0% is the quartile. And what they did is their first estimate was a year, which is now, right? And so you've got 3.5% is the low, 4.75, 5.6 is the high, and that we're kind of in that range right now. Now remember, this is national. This isn't, there are people. The crash bros are really hot on Florida because it has the highest level of inventory of any place historically. It's still well below the market crash.
Right. So there are places like Florida, like Todd said, that have higher inventory than the rest of the nation. That's not the same as they have more inventory than they can absorb. That's not the same thing. They just have more inventory than other places. That's all.
So this, you can see on the bottom here, there's a little thing that tells you what's what. So the pessimists is the orange, that's the crash bros. Basically, the professional crash bros, they actually get paid for being crash bros. And then the mean is the black, and then for the all panelists, and then the optimist is the top one. As you can see here, the optimists are saying basically 5% a year compounding, and then you get up to 31.6%. Remember, this looks super steep because 0 is the baseline, but remember 0, we're just talking 30% over 5 years. If the stock market did 30% over 5 years, that would be pretty low, right? That's like 6% a year maybe.
Right, so 30% over 5 years is not really unreasonable. I just think it might be on the high end, depending on obviously a whole host of issues, because this is not an isolated thing, right? Housing is part of the greater economy, and we have to take into account things like interest rates and employment and other economic policies and things like that. So I think 30%. I think it's a little optimistic, but I don't think it's way off.
Median was 20.2, and the low was 7.5. So now remember, these are nominal percentage. This just means based on today's prices. This does not take out inflation. We probably, let's just say we get back to 2% inflation, then the pessimists are basically saying home prices really don't go up at all. Because if you take 2% inflation, the pessimists are saying in 2025 housing will be down, and 26 it'll be pretty flat. And but when they say down, that they're talking about 0.8% or something like that. Right. So Oana, now what we're going to do is we're going to show the chart of what housing has looked like basically for the last, this goes back to 1975, okay? Now, guys, here's the chart. This is the chart. Now, the Crash Bros have taken this chart and they've distorted it to make it look a bit more ridiculous. So you had 1975 basically up to the Great Financial Crisis. As you can see, we had the housing run up. Home prices fell pretty substantially. Probably, if you look at that chart, they probably fell 15, 20%. Nationally, some markets like Vegas, we had more. Florida, Miami, Georgia, Arizona, parts of California. Those were the big ones. Those were the big areas that had a high amount of overbuilding and by new home builders. And then you could see this area. This is what we're going to focus on because this is more relevant to today. 2012 to 2019, do you see the slope of that line? That's the curvy up and down line. Now remember, those little curves are the seasonality. Home prices go up in the spring and then they kind of decline a little in the fall. They go up and they decline. And those peaks are all in April. All those peaks are in April. It's just how it works. It's not magic, it's how it works, okay? Then we have the pandemic run up and the interest rate, inflation. Now you could see the Crash Bros basically show that line continuing to go up, saying this, and that's unsustainable, right? Now we've seen other products, inflationary, Oana, have gone up too, right? Costs of everything that we buy.
Sure.
So let's talk about that first before we talk about these three different scenarios here. What things have gone up over the last maybe 3 years? Inflationary, what kind of things do
food.
people?
So let's talk about that. Food has gone up.
Okay, food has gone up.
Rents have gone up.
Rents have gone up quite a bit, right? Remember, now rents, home prices are not part of the CPI.
No, they're not.
Why are home prices why are home prices not part of the CPI? There's a lot of people out there saying, no, it doesn't make sense. The home prices are going up, that's inflation. Why don't they count that?
Because think of it this way. Rent is something that you pay for the use of something, right? So you don't get to keep it. When the month is up or your rental period is up, you don't get to keep an asset. You have nothing. You paid your rent and you have nothing after you've used it up, like your food, right? You pay for your food, you eat it, and when you're done, you have nothing. But when you buy a home, you pay for the home, and when you're done using it, you still have the asset. So for that reason, homes, when you purchase a home, that's considered an investment, and it's not part of the CPI. Same way that if you buy anything else that will appreciate in value, that's considered an investment. So maybe art, maybe stocks, bonds, all those things, they're considered investments because they can appreciate in value.
Okay, so that's exactly it. And probably somebody say, well, Todd, cars. No, cars are not investments. Cars, you use them, they depreciate on a pretty rapid schedule. Even Teslas, for example, depreciate not as much as most other cars, but they still go down in value.
Right, so what's the joke? That your car's worth several $1,000s less the moment you drive it off the lot? Well, it's true, right? Because it has to do with the utility of the asset, and a car is an asset, but it's not an investment. Okay, now let's go back to this chart here. If you look right up where it says about Q1 of 2020, right when home prices really took off, 2019 was the crash, bro. I did find and post on the last video a very famous person today. He wasn't famous back then. Somebody became relatively famous in like 2021, 2022. Who was a real estate agent who then pivoted to overall influencer, and he posted a housing crash video. The housing crash of 2019. Here it comes. This is why housing will crash in 2019. Guys, think about this. You're in 2019 and you're looking at this chart thinking, I'm right at that point where I should be ready to buy a house. And you can see the home prices are highest they've ever been, and now you start seeing housing crash. You're thinking,
I'm going to hold off. I mean, these interest rates, they're 3.5%. That's way too high, right? And then these home prices. I can't believe a median home is $270,000. That's just unbelievable. Like, who would pay that much money? And here we are now. Median home prices are what, 400. Interest rates are 6.5%. And you could see what's happened here. Now look, even the most optimistic, that little blue line up to 31.6. The optimistic is not even matched the scope. It is the slope of that line. Okay. Now you have the crash bros, and if you looked at this historically, if home prices only went up 7.5%, they're still up. Rents are not going to go down. Rents are probably going to still keep going up 3 or 4%, right, per year. Be interesting to see what rents, like if they did this with rents. I think rents would look similar to this, and then the median here is 20.2%. That line, that 20.2, looks very much in line with pretty much everything from 2011 to 2020. Oana, let's talk about big economic factors that are driving this. Let's start with the number of homes being built. How many homes do new home builders generally sell per year?
They sell just about everything that they build, and they're building less than 1 million a year.
Okay, less than 1 million a year, nationally, less than 1 million. We have 2 million housing formations a year. These are generally either from immigration or from people who grow up and form a household. Okay, they married or whatever, and they go out and become home purchasers. If we're adding 2 million households a year, but we're building less than 1 million, I think this year we're going to build 700,000 new homes. What does that do to home prices? We're just talking single family homes. What does that do and why? How does that affect home prices?
So, the old supply and demand, right? So if you have the demand from 2 million, a supply of 1 million, rough numbers, then you have more demand than you have supply. So at the very least, prices will stay stable, but more likely than not, prices will increase. Now, this is even keeping into account that not everyone's a home buyer, right? There are people who go out and rent apartments, so we're not even considering that. So that's what I'm saying. At the very least, home prices remain stable. However, because we've been behind on new construction for so long, it's very difficult for home prices to not continue to go up, because every year that passes, we have more demand building up from previous years of people wanting to buy homes. So you can't look at 1 year in isolation. You have to kind of look back to when did we stop virtually building homes to today. So we've been behind on building homes for so long, and this is just something that keeps building, no pun intended, as far as this demand against insufficient supply every year. So this is going to continue. It's going to continue for a long time until we get caught up. Now, if you're thinking that, we're going to have some kind of population decrease with some generations dying out and that sort of thing, well, then you're in for a really long time, a really long wait, because these generations will not die out sufficiently to make up for the people coming up, right? Because the generations behind these generations that will be dying out are far larger than the generations that are dying out.
Yeah, let's talk about that really quick. Silver tsunami, the boomers, they'll all be dead by 2030. Okay, first of all, they won't. We're both Gen Xers. The boomers are older than us, but there'll still be boomers in 40 years. There'll be less of them, first of all. Second of all, boomers are not even the largest generation. The largest generations are the 2 generations behind them, millennials and Gen X's. They're actually larger generations than boomers. The other thing too is that their homes are not all gonna flood the market. If a boomer dies, what if they're married and their wife or their spouse is 10 years younger than them?
Right.
Probably gonna keep living in the house. We know a lot of people like that, right?
Right. Well, even when they're not substantially younger, I mean, we have friends whose spouses have passed away and the surviving spouse is still in the home and they're in their 70s. So it's not like everybody has a much younger spouse. Even when their spouse is a peer, they will remain in their homes. Remember, they're healthier, they're living longer. They don't need to sell these homes in order to make ends meet. Of course, this doesn't apply to everybody, but it applies to enough people to make a substantial impact on the amount of inventory we have.
Yeah, my parents were silent generation, and mom outlived dad by 16 years. And dad died at pretty normal age. Mom, of course, outlived into her 90s. So she stayed in the house the whole time. So this idea that the house would just disappear, and then what happens to the house? Well, because we do a lot of probate and we see a lot of this and we work with these people, most of them keep the house.
Right.
They don't sell the house and just try to liquidate the money. Let's talk about this too. You build 700,000 homes, but we lose about 125,000 homes a year that are destroyed.
Right.
And this is not net. This is not, when we say 700,000, this is just building permits. We also are losing homes too, so we're actually only adding like 500,000 to 600,000 homes. Why are we losing homes? Where do they go?
Well, so homes either become functionally obsolete and they're no longer habitable, or they're destroyed through fire, through natural disasters, whatever. But homes don't live forever, right? I mean, we've all driven by homes that are no longer inhabited by anyone, and they're teardowns, right? So that's what we're talking about. And you're thinking, well, 125,000 or whatever homes, that's a lot of homes. Well, we're a big country. So when you put that against the number of homes we have in the country, that's actually not that substantial.
Okay, the last thing we'll talk about, the unforeseen. Now remember that the housing crash that we called back in 2006 on our radio show, which was also called Talk About Houses, was pretty substantial. It led to the great financial crisis, not the other way around. So what we've heard people saying is, but Todd, the next recession, there'll be so many job losses. These people won't be able to make their mortgage payments. Okay, let's talk about two separate things. One, we had 17% on inflation 4 years ago because of lockdowns.
You're talking about 17% unemployment.
I'm sorry, 17% unemployment. Sorry, unemployment. Early in the morning here. 17% unemployment about 4 years ago. But look at this chart. Home prices were skyrocketing. Why were all the people losing their jobs, giving up their homes? What was happening? Why weren't they?
So they weren't giving up their homes. So we've talked about this before. Job loss does not equal loss of home. It may equal sale of home, but not loss of home. And when it equals the sale of a home, well, that's fine, but they've got to live somewhere, right? So they are going to more likely than not, within a few months, recover and buy something else, because that's just the way life goes. These are not homes that are going to be foreclosed on. These are homes that, for the most part, nothing will happen to them. They won't sell them because their mortgage payment is far less than what they would be paying in rent, even for a lesser home or a lesser apartment. So they will hang on to these homes. They can do workouts with the bank to get some sort of a reprieve until they get another job. And if they do sell the home will not be a fire sale, right? Because they have equity in the home, and because of that equity, that buys them time in order to sell the home for the most money they can get for it. So it doesn't mean that you're going to have home prices decline. Even if properties turn over, that does not mean a home price decline. So for example, if I decide that I want to sell my home and I want to buy a different home, well, okay, but what does that mean? Well, it just means I'm trading one home for another. So there is no net increase in inventory.
Yeah,
and
you create another buyer.
Exactly. And just because I want to sell my home, does that mean that I'm going to sell it for less than market value? No. If someone loses their job, does that mean that they will sell their home for less than market value? No. So understand that just because properties are trading hands, that doesn't mean that they're trading hands at a discount.
Okay, last thing before we go. There have been proposals on both sides, by both major parties, about incentivize. The problem with real estate is so expensive, and how we're going to fix it is we're not going to add more homes. We're going to give people more money up front to buy houses. That'll solve the affordability problem. If we just give people more money, how does that will create more buyers, right?
Not really. I mean, honestly, not really. The net effect will not be more buyers. It will be more people who want to buy.
Okay.
But not more buyers, right?
Why won't? Well, no, more people won't be able to buy because you can't just, if you sell 4 million homes a year and you give people more money, you're just creating more people wanting to buy.
Right.
Okay, what does that do to home prices?
So when you have more people chasing fewer homes, right? Because now you've got a greater pool of potential buyers chasing the same number of homes. What does that mean? Well, it means that these same number of homes will increase in value because now you're going to have multiple offers. And when we have multiple offers, most of the time the home sells for more money. So that doesn't really help as far as this whole housing shortage thing. the only thing that would help this housing shortage, honestly, is building more homes.
Yeah.
So how do we build more homes? Well, we build more homes by incentivizing people to take up trades, because then we would have more labor to build homes. We build more homes by making it easier through the permitting process, because then it would take builders less time to pull permits, and that therefore they'd be able to put up more homes in less time. So those kinds of things would actually have a positive impact on the number of homes being able to be built. But money alone actually creates more problems than it solves.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, when I looked at these charts and everything, the reason we're doing the video is because these do not look out of line. These look completely reasonable. Nobody's calling for 40 to 50% home price, crashes. If anything, interest rates are on their way down. We're already down from 7.5 to 6.5. We have a Fed cut possibly coming, maybe another one later in the year, depending on what happens with the economy and inflation. And, we're likely to see over the next couple years, get back down to where we were long term, with 4.5%, 5% interest rates, which are not unreasonable to borrow money at 4.5%, 5% for an asset that will appreciate it, basically roughly at that amount.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope you had a good time watching the video.
Last thing. We are going somewhere next.
Oh, yes.
So let's recap. Oana, where did we start off?
So we started out in Singapore.
Okay. We shot a video in Singapore.
We did.
Then we went to Nusa Dua, which is in Bali.
Right.
And now we're in Ubud.
Yes.
In Bali, which is we're inland here now. We're going to another place.
Yes.
So you can put in the comments where you think we're going next. I'll give you a hint, it is Southeast Asia.
Yes.
But you have to guess the specific destination.
And I'm really hoping for insects that love me less.
Yeah, there'll probably be less insects there.
So
I hope.
So if I've been fidgeting and slapping at myself, it's because I'm getting bitten.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So I hope you had a good time watching the video. Please remember to leave us your comments. We appreciate real estate related comments in particular, and comments about how I should not, what I should do
I know,
about my bug bites.
Bit like 5 times since we're sitting here.
Please like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.